If you're using AI like Claude or ChatGPT, you might be seeking better ways how to communicate with the AI across different sessions. And we know it all in the chatbots that we have endless open sessions with a lot of back and forth, maybe mixed topics in there. Now we have these new tools coming out like Buzz, which they claim they reply Slack with it, right? Where your AI agent joins the party and they talk inside the thread along with the other people. And you see that's really a Slack composition here. But also the new Grok Bot, it also promises that now you have different chat channels that you can talk to AI to, and it works online. And this video I want to explain to you why I don't use either of this. I built these things for myself just using Claude, and I'm not a developer or a coder, so you will see in this video how I approach this to build something like this for myself, but in a much more useful way, in my opinion, than these chatbots are. Because it sounds great on the surface talking to different agents who are specialized in something specific, but not every business topic is so strict that you only need one expert. Usually you need a combination of these experts, and that's what we have built in a local folder already, where we have one orchestrator that I can talk to, and he delegates the work to the experts who should work on this. So having something like in GrokBot, where I have only one person I'm talking to, makes no sense to me. But obviously there's also places where the different agents talk to each other and all these things. To me, all of this is overcomplicating, forcing me to use tools from other people. And even having something in the cloud where I no longer have ownership directly of what I'm creating versus having everything local. And believe it or not, we will create all this in just a local folder on my desktop. We just call it AI Conversation Tool. And if you go in here, you see this folder is empty. I will just create another one. I will just duplicate this one. And I call this one my PKA, and I get to this in a moment why I'm calling it this way. So why do I have these two folders? Well, both are empty, and we want to build this AI communication tool inside this folder just using Claude. And I will use one where I just right click on this folder and start new terminal at folder. And don't worry if you never use the terminal, it works the same way as if you would use the desktop application here. So I can also use Claude Code for exactly this exercise. I can pick a folder here, go to desktop, and I could now pick up this folder. So I could do it this way, but I rather use the terminal, so we have for both instances that we are using the same starting point. So I just launch Claude. And you can easily install this. And now you see we are having Claude here, and I can directly talk to Claude in the terminal. And I also will launch another terminal, but I won't launch this directly on this folder. Instead, I will launch this on my PKA folder, which is this one, my live folder TR. And if you go in here, this is my personal folder. We have my PKM, my journal entries, my whole life is in there, all the understanding about everything that I built in the past, the way I want to work with the team, different team members, and you see it's all just local folders with instructions what these agents are doing. And this is something that accumulates when you start using one folder and you keep using the same folder to work with AI in it. You will end up with something like this. And I want to show you now the big difference using directly an empty folder and just Claude versus an established folder that I use for my day-to-day work. So if I open here now a terminal on this folder, you see it is now in this folder versus this one is in this folder. When we now ask the same question to these two different instances, you will see big difference. Who are you? So you see here, he says, I'm Claude Code Anthropic CLI, okay? And this is the standard response, and that he's now in this folder, this one. Let's give it a color so we can differentiate it. Purple is this one, and yellow is this one, okay? And we make it this way, so we have it visually represented, these two different channels. And here you see that he already says here, I'm Larry, your team orchestrator at my PKA, and what he is doing and the team members that he has access. So why is this difference? In my folder, there's a Claude.md file that whenever you start a session from Claude inside a local folder, and there is a Claude.md file, the first thing it does is reading this file to understand who he is, what he's doing, and so on. And the one that I'm using here in this folder is much more complex because there's just a starting point for Larry to start with. And then it's referring to a lot of other documents and places inside the folder to understand what is going on. For example, he's pointing to the team where there is a agent index and so on. So I just want to tell you this so you get a better understanding what's going on now when we build this up. So you know that this one is pure Claude code with no memory active. It is just working out of the box, and we show you that we can create this communication tool using just pure Claude code. But the different outcome I will get using an established MyPKA folder that you can, by the way, download for free. You can get it all for free, the basic instructions. He will instantly say, I'm Larry, your orchestrator, the moment you download and start the things. And then you just talk to this folder via Claude, and it starts building your team knowledge, your own knowledge, and all this on autopilot, but all accessible locally on your machine. And that's the beautiful thing. And that's also the ultimate goal of this conversation tool, because all this will also run local. Nothing will go outside, and we will even preserve the conversations between AI. So it's not lost in the chat sessions with Claude, but we own now the conversation in general, and all stored in this local folder. Okay, keep in mind the difference is that this session is not running directly on this folder, so this session is not aware of this folder yet, versus this one is already aware of this folder. So let's get started. Here we see I drafted out a very generalistic prompt. I need you to create an interactive HTML file that represents a Slack conversation thread between you and me moving forward in the session, and I need you to create a 1-minute loop to check for any replies from me on this HTML file. Don't reply to this message in terminal. I want your response in the HTML file with a text box below where I can leave my answer that you pick up through your loop and reply there, and then bad English, but I keep it as it is because I want to prove you don't need to be an expert and being a prompt engineer in order to pull this off. It's all about iterating on what comes out next. Obviously, the better the initial prompt is, the better the outcome will be, and we talk about this in a moment. Conversation should always be short, to the point, no filler phrases, and only signal, no noise. Our conversation should get a unique ID, so it could get picked up by any other Claude session to read context and impersonate the person in the chat. And here we see I actually gave this to my personal AI and I said, optimize this prompt for me. And he made a lot more details into it, but I don't want to go for it. Okay. I want to keep it as simple as this and show you how far we can get and how I would iterate along the way. So I copy this prompt in here and I copy this prompt in here. But in this one, I need to add, I want you to build this out in this folder. And now I can use this folder, drag in here and hold Shift. And now it just adds the local link to this folder. And this is enough for Claude to actually act on it. And there we go. We start both sessions and then we will see what's coming up. All right. And I actually move these things a bit more away. So I move these folders out of the way so we can actually see the folders open next to each session. So we have the context about them to see what's happening. So you see this session has created a server.js. We don't need to care about what this is all about. And here we already have a threads folder that was added and a server Python script. So it seems this is going for JavaScript, this one for Python. You don't need to know what this means. Let's just keep iterating on it. And we see already that's the more important file here now, the index.html, which allows me later to open up this in my browser to interact with. And that's exactly why I said create an HTML. So it's actually an interactive way to chat. Okay, so the goal is that whatever I would actually ask inside the terminal, I can now ask through this interface in the browser, and I would get responses only in this browser and no longer inside this terminal. But in the back end, it would still use the terminal session here to communicate. And let's wait what it will come up with. and how much time we have left, how much we can iterate on this, because obviously I could do this for days, and I'm certainly building something out more sophisticated in the future because I want to have this way of communication too. For me, it's key to have the direct link of something that I'm working on, to have a persistent session that I can always get back to and stay independent from Claude or any other model. So I have my own tool managing this, and that's the ultimate goal. And tools like Buzz requires you to use the API, for example, from Anthropic. So you pay per token, and you cannot use your Claude subscription in the max plan. And that's something I don't want to lose. I want to be able to use the max plan, and what we are building here right now is within the terms of service of Anthropic, and I can perfectly use my subscription in order to build something like this, to communicate with this terminal in a different way or form, because it's still me using it. There's no other people in there. And what I'm building here right now is just for me to communicate with AI. We could obviously go wild and make something where other people can go in, but that's something I don't want to have in this concept. And talking to our members, we realized also they would use something like Grok Bot or Buzz just for their own communication with AI to get a better overview of what is going on. So while they are working on this thing, I want to show you actually the app that I built that runs on the folder that I showed you in the beginning. It's called My PKA Cockpit or Interface. I'm not sure it's about the name, but this is it. And this is a fully fledged note-taking application where I have a hub, where I have this day 6 months ago, 3 days ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and so on. And the latest scanned documents that I have as PDFs that are all, keep in mind, this is all based on my local folder. And this is something that is a proper app. It has even a menu icon. I have here quick notes. I can actually use this to quickly make notes. This is a test for the video. So you see I wrote this into this quick notes window. I can close it, and you see here it's actually living in here. So it's real-time updating, and then I can say discuss with AI, and it would open up a terminal. I can discuss this, and all this is just living in my local folder. So what we are building here is just tools that hook into something in my local folder and visualize it in a way or form. And the better the structure inside the folder, or the database that you build in the folder, the better the visualization will be. And to build something more sophisticated like this, because we also have here whiteboards, and I can even on this, what you might know from Exolidraw, I can have here my notes in there and all these things. I have a planner application that is currently not connected, that I need because I have an update, but usually it shows my calendar and my to-do-list and so on, so I can plan out the week. Many things I'm not going into in detail on this video. If you want to see me make a dedicated video about this, let me know in the comments below. But I want to show how far you can go by just building the interface the way you want it to be. And I strongly believe that this will be the future of interacting with AI, that experts, individual humans will build something that perfectly fits their needs, their way of thinking, their way of work, their way of working, their way of interacting with other humans or than AI, and will be the future, because you can really literally build all this yourself now, versus in the past we always were dependent on the productivity tools that developers created for us, and then we tried to apply our concepts and workflows and methodologies onto these tools like Obsidian, Notion, Heptabase, Apple Notes, you name it, to use them efficiently. And now if you understand how to be productive and what your methodology is, you can literally build a tool that perfectly works with your methodology. And that's the whole point of this video, that I just don't want to say I'm building an alternative for Buzz or Grok Bot. I'm just showing you I'm seeing these things. I get inspired that I could have something similar. I think about what I could use, and then I build it for myself using Claude. And that's it. And that's exactly the approach. I would do some prototyping. I would see what it comes up with, and then I see how it goes. So here we go. This looks good, because what we see already here is it says unanswered messages. See, there's no more responses. And here the same thing. silent, nothing new, silent, okay? So they're constantly checking right now if there's anything new. This means the servers are running and these pages are already open. So let's find them. So they opened it already on Chrome. And here we have the first version. Let's see, this is a local server 8792 running. So I can actually check which one launched what. 8792. So that's the one that my own AI team created. And here, I guess we will see now the other one, 4271. So the other one is this one. And isn't this funny? At this point, they look very similar. And why does it look similar? Because I mentioned the word Slack. This looks one-to-one like a Slack application. If you install Slack for the first time, it even uses the same colors. So it looked up the things in Slack and it built this out of the box with one prompt. So let's see if we see any differences with the plain Claude or the AI Claude. So that's the one that we have here with just Claude. And I say here direct messages even, but I cannot click on it. All right. Can you read this? And here, Claude is picking this up every 60 seconds. So we have actually a timer where he keeps looking then. So whenever this timer runs out, we will see now in a moment that he picks this up. And I will also do the same for the other session. Can you read this? And here you see he already added Larry and not Claude. So here he is now checking and he actually picked it up. Checking thread for unanswered questions. He should now see, can you read this? And therefore start answering in here and not in here. See, yes, loop is working, picked up 60. So he's using loops. And for those who don't know what a loop is, you can say /loop and you can create these loops. But the minimal timing that you can use to do something is 1 minute. So he created a loop where he every 60 seconds will check, is there a new message? And if I, within these 60 seconds, write something and he doesn't pick it up, then I have to wait another 60 seconds. And that's not the best approach. It is the first idea that came to my mind too, but we will do something that's much more sophisticated. And here, he also did a loop. Picked you up at 15, replying at 15:10. What do you need? Okay. So here, he keeps now checking. So both are doing really exactly the same. And now let's keep iterating. And from here onwards, we will do this by directly talking to AI through this panel because we just built it, so why not using it? Instead of using loops, couldn't we just use hooks? So whenever there's a new message, it actually wakes you up and prompts you that there is something new to read about. So this would make it much more interactive and responsive than using loops, which is, by the way, also not reliable enough, as loops are not living forever and they will die at some point, and that we would restart them later. So what do you think about hooks? All right. So I use the same prompt as is, and I will send it also to our second version. And you see right now the difference, my PKA Tom plus Larry, to know that this is the one that I'm building with my own folder in mind. And this is the one that we built with the normal Claude code. So let's see how I can organize these things to make it even more visible. All right, now we have it next to each other and we see already that this is still picking up here and he's already running and he didn't reply yet. And here, okay, now he replied. All right. So now we have everything in one side. We see actually the app that we are building. We see what happens inside the terminals. We see what happens inside the folders. So now let's see. Hooks are the wrong tool for this, but you're right about the loop. Hooks fire on my life cycle, not yours. Okay, that makes actually... Yeah, okay, hooks is not working. However, that's already something that both say too here, Claude-P. That's actually a hidden Claude session that you can launch. And I think it's worth even now thinking further. That's something I thought already. Each Claude session has their own session ID. So whenever we have something running in a terminal, or even if you're using Claude Desktop and you talk there, these sessions get stored locally on your machine and they have their own ID. That's what I actually added to the status line down here. Here we see the session ID of this session, all right? So we can take advantage of this ID to get back into the same conversation. Why I'm saying this is that Claude-P means that it launches a session with a question or prompt. It gives the output and the feedback, and then it closes the session again. And this would mean each time we are launching it would then open also a complete new session. But I know from experience that there's also a flag that you can add to resume in a session that was previously there. So I actually should have said this directly here. So I understand that this is not possible. I'm sure we would find other ways to do this, but let's start with the Claude-P approach, and we can have actually consistent sessions out of this. So we just need to ensure that a session ID from the terminal session gets stored and connected to the conversation inside the tool that we are building. So whenever we reply something, it opens Claude and resumes the conversation in the background. So we have a persistent session going on. It's just important that the whole conversation and all the responses and feedback get stored properly inside our folder. So we are not dependent on these Claude session files, but eventually can live from the conversations that we stored locally. So that makes it independent from any LLM or device or other restrictions that we might have. And we have always the full conversation saved in the local folder. Again, I will send it here and I will also send it here. But you see, even with this setup already, we can now say, give me the feature that I can create new channels and that actually launch. Well, actually, that's something we do in a moment. Well, why not let's speed things up. Also add the feature that I can create new channels, which would mean that there is a new session launched in the background, a new Claude session launched in the background, whenever I create a new channel. So the session ID gets linked to the channel, and whenever I talk inside the channel, this session gets resumed, and I can keep going with the conversation. Okay, let's paste it also in here. And the beautiful thing is, I mean, it was just one not optimized prompt that we used here in order to build something where I can directly send messages out of the box. I think that's pretty amazing. So if you never used Claude for this, give it a try. Just ask, because you cannot go wrong. You just build something local in a folder that is just running on a HTML page like here. And this is where you can have some prototyping and see how far you can get. But now the important thing to me is that when I played with something like this and I had some way, you usually get very fast to 80-90% with this, and then the last 20% are missing, and that's where the real work comes in then, and iterations and refinements and bug fixing. And if you just stop and in 2 months from now you start again with this because you thought, okay, I want to give it another go, you would have lost all this work and the insights that you had from the conversation here and what worked, what didn't work, and so on. Versus in this version, when you use the myPKA folder, everything gets stored in this local folder. So I open this folder in Claude as I did here, and I could say, hey, we worked on something already in the past and that could replace Slack for me or whatever. Based on this context, my AI will already know that, yes, we worked on this. And this is the approach that we used. And this is what we built out. And this is what worked and what didn't work. So it has a complete different starting point, even if you start from scratch building something, to build this again. And that's how I iterated over a year. I'm building a lot of apps already, and this is where then I always come back to things, and then something like this gets established. Might be that I build out a whiteboard tool, because this, for example, lives if you go into our membership platform, which, by the way, I also completely built using Claude. In here you have, for example, the tool workflow creator, okay, that I built. So the tools that you have in your tool stack here, you can drag and drop onto this, and then you can connect them together, and you write notes, and you can say, is it info or action? Many things like this. So this canvas, the connections, how this works, drag and drop, all these things I built out already once. So I can leverage this knowledge, and because I built within my folder, I can now say, build a whiteboarding tool that I can use to interact with my local folder, and use whatever we use to build this in our membership platform. So it uses the same compounds, or at least the understanding of how we got the end result to the place it was. And it accelerates anything else that I will build out in the future. And this is how I was able to build this just in 15 minutes. And I had this whole thing. So if others going to Excalibur or my Miro or any other tools, I can now use this. I can even use my iPad to draw on this and many things like this. So that's really the whole principle behind this. If you start with Claude and you tested it for a few things and you gave up and you said, well, it's just consuming too much time. Well, this is how you might not need to rethink, because this also applies to everything that you work on in your expertise. You're an expert working on something, creating proposals, reports, slide decks, all these things. Let's say you used Claude to create a slide deck for a presentation and you took the whole day to make the design properly, that it's properly worded and images placed and image generation and all this. And then you do this once and you say, man, this took a whole day. Well, that's where you need to tell AI to store the insights from this to create, I wouldn't say a skill out of it, but a documentation. And that's, again, when we look into our folder that we use at my ICOR, this is where the team knowledge comes into play. All right. It's just, again, folders with guidelines, with SOPs, standard operating procedures, where the information stands and how it gets done. And what should get done is the work streams, all right? So I can go in here, install an expansion, for example, and there's instructions how to do this, which then references to how it gets done and our general guidelines that are the global guidelines. And all the team members work according to this documentation then, and it's all based on one major team member, who is in my case Larry, the orchestrator. He's really the person who gets initiated the moment I start talking inside the folder, as you have seen in the beginning of the video where Larry responded, I'm Larry. That's the reason. And he's aware of all the team members. He hands off the work to these team members, and those team members look up then the right documentation in order to know how a slide deck should get created. And that's what you get out of the box, downloading it for free inside my ICOR. And you start, let's say, create the slide deck for me, you iterate, and then you say, save the documentation for the team. So next time it will build this out of the box, and you will be shocked the moment the next time you create a slide deck and you say, here's just the content, build me a slide deck based on what you know. They will build it perfectly the way that you did before. And if not, you keep iterating. And that's the thing. Don't stop if anything fails at the second or third time, because every time you iterate on it, this team has an integrated logging system. They have their own journals, literally. They write down their insights from these sessions. So Larry, for example, he has his journal, and he has all his journal entries that he created for himself about me interacting with him. So he gets the insights out of these sessions too, how to act better next time. And that's why it's worth doing the iterations, because it's always improving the system each time you interact with it. And that's something that isn't working if you have only chat conversations in a ChatGPT or Claude chat, or relying on the auto memory feature from Claude, which I switched off for exact this reason. I want to have everything in this one folder and not getting interfered with other folders. All right, you might have seen already there's an API error with overloaded. So when this happens, I just say continue and see if he can recover. And here he keeps working on it. So in the meantime, what I want to start a third session, a third folder that we will run in the background, that we say AI Convo optimized prompt, because I want to show you what it helps to optimize the prompt. So you can directly ask any Claude session to say, can you optimize this prompt? And it will do so. And the more you work with the system, the better the prompt optimization will be too. So I made this here. Okay, so this is the previous prompt, and here's the optimized prompt that I got from my own team. And I want to use this now to see if we get a different outcome out of the box with an optimized prompt. So just to be clear, it's the exact same input that we had here. I handed it over to my own team and I said, can you optimize this prompt for me? And it came back with all this. All right. So I didn't even read it. I will just copy it. And I will launch another session on this folder. And by the way, for those who wonder, I'm not using the terminals this way. Okay. I'm usually using VS Code, and I can show you in another video how I do this. But for this demonstration, it's okay to just use the terminal with these folders. So you see now, like this one is also now starting in the folder, but here I will now copy in this prompt. By the way, if you copy in and you copy twice, it copy in. And you can see pasted text and 139. So if this happens, you can actually copy it twice and then it will actually unfold it so you can actually read what you copied in. And we just hit enter. I want to also again add the information, build this app inside this folder. And again, I will now use this folder, drag it in so it knows that it should build it in this folder. And that's something we will just let it run in the background and look back every now and then how this looks like. So let's make this one green. And I don't know, let's move it here in between. Okay, so here, this thing is stuck. Obviously, when I want to work on something, then this is always happening. I mean, when I want to record something, this is always happening, obviously. So what I will do now, I will this session to out of box convo tool. All right. So now we renamed it. And I can exit this session. And now I will just start a new session. Let's see the restart. And now I'm in a complete fresh session. So there's several things I could do now. As the initial conversation was already here, nothing is lost. See, that's the beauty. I can now just point it and say pick up wherever it was lost. But I can also say /resume. And in here you see already there's this out of box combo that I can pick up now. And that's what I mean. It's stored locally in these sessions. So I can launch it this way again. And now we are back in. And now it starts API error. So it seems it really has an issue here, while this one is working. So we will do something else with this one. So if this is no longer working, I launch this and see this is real life working with Claude. This can happen. It's actually very unusual, but it can happen. And this is where we then try to leverage whatever we have. And I will just, well, we launched already terminal on. Check the folder content in there. There was actually a conversation in a tool that we've built that we already had to keep iterating on this tool. So look up the conversations to see what you find and ask me any questions if there's any context missing for you to move on. Okay, so let's see what he's doing. In the meantime, let's see what they said. Blocked, and I need you to clear it. Okay, so I think, so what he's probably saying here is that when he uses now this, he cannot bypass permissions. So what about adding the flag? Okay, he's working again. So he was blocked for some other reason. See how far this guy is. He's already starting the server. So we will be able to see this in action in a moment too. And here he recovered too. He looked into the channel. He found the messages. That's all inside this file here. See, it's all stored here. And I'm pretty sure when we open up this third folder, see, we have now a Slack thread. It's a complete different organization. We have here a thread ID. So it's much better organized than the things that was built out of the box without the prompt optimization. So here he's asking me, question is good, but where would he store actually this? Okay, we cannot make this video too long, and that's why I'm fast forwarding things, because I showed you proof of concept with these things already. We will just wait for this final version that is coming up. And then obviously, in the moment I build something more sophisticated, I will make a follow-up video to show you what I've built there in a way that you can download this if you don't want to build this yourself. We always provide these things inside our membership whenever we have something available that's actually shareable with other people, like our folder or the cockpit that is also already available inside my ICOR, and this will be no exception. All right, and here it is. This is the version that this optimized prompt delivered. All right, so let's see how this acts. So it made a dark mode, loud and clear. What do you want? Let's see if this is responsive. Well, it's now stuck again at 60 seconds. because we have again a loop. So the question is now, instead of polling every 60 seconds, can we actually have an instant response? So the moment I send something, it's instantly sent to your session. All right, now you see a watcher is sitting on the session. So now he should instantly find anything that I sent directly. See, monitor event, it picked it up and sent it. So that's what I wanted to have out of the box with the others. Maybe I framed it wrong, but that's just showing never give up iterating. And what I usually would do if I would build something like this from scratch properly, I would say send out a team to research for the best practices in building something like this, what framework we should use, what architecture and so on. So they do actually online research for the best practices, and based on the team that we have specific research agents and so on. He has a complete different starting point. We also didn't talk about design. We didn't say how it should work, and I will think about this myself, building something, and be sure in one of the next videos I will show you something fully fledged out. I will explain to you how I build it, why I build it, but the key will be it will just run on your local folder, and you can start interacting with your AI inside this local folder without at any time looking at these ugly terminals anymore, and yet having your own thing that you actually can use and organize the things much easier. I hope this gave you some inspiration to be brave and build your own tools. I do a lot of small things, like create a menu item on top that shows me some information about something, and many other things that I built already and replace tools that I actually been paying for in the past. And inside our community, we have a lot of members who are also sharing their insights on what they've built with MyPKA and their Claude system. And this is where I also get a lot of inspiration from this. So if you're watching this, thanks so much for sharing your insights and articles that you create inside the community. Very helpful, and I cannot wait. So if you don't want to miss out on the future updates that I will share on this channel, subscribe to it, and I catch you up in the next video.